Hello, everyone. Welcome to the live stream, everybody. Hey, cool kids. Gonna bring Tom here on in a minute, and we're gonna get into it. PP therapy. I'm very excited. Hi, cool kids. Coming to hang out, talking about PP therapy, Shivambu, as it is known in the yogic tradition. Also Amaroli, also Orin, O-R-I-N, therapy. Let's see, let's get Tom on here now.
There we go.
There you go. Hey, welcome.
Hey, how are you?
Good. So very excited for our chat about PP therapy tonight. As some of you know, Tom recently did a urine therapy live, or video anyways, an interview with Amanda Vollmer, who is one of my other most favorite people. And she covered a lot of things in that podcast, and it was really, really great. And but there was a couple things that I wanted to kind of dive into to kind of add on to that. So yeah, Tom, you were one of the first people that introduced me to urine therapy. It was like 2 years ago. I was still struggling with acne on my chin, and you said, well, you could put urine on it, on your, your acnes, your zits, and I was like, oh. And I remember doing it like just really like just a tiny little bit, like just putting it on there like just a little bit, like not really diving in. And then, but now it's just, I just all over my face pretty much every day. And my face is so like my skin is so clear and so soft, and yeah, urine therapy is amazing. So since speaking with you about it, I went to Soulshine Festival at the end of last summer, where Amanda Vollmer was doing some workshops, and we got to know each other so much better than I ever thought. And yeah, she did a workshop, and she talked about PP therapy, about urine therapy. And I actually did it that night at the festival, and I was absolutely blown away by how not terrible it was. I mean, it was really not that bad. And it was almost like a spiritual awakening. Actually, it was like another level of spiritual awakening, having tried my urine and finding out that it didn't taste as bad as I thought, and that I actually felt better, and I felt great in the morning. So yeah, I'd love to dive into it. And like I said before, I'd love to kind of chat about our philosophy around how and why it works.
Cool. Yep. Well, yeah, I liked it because we wanted to do this chat a while ago, right? But then it was, especially after the chat with Amanda, you were kind of like, there's some deeper areas to go into, which is what, yeah, I'm definitely keen to chat about. So, I mean, I think I had the same process, was always the same thing, where it just seems counterintuitive because of what we're told, like urine's a waste product and it's gross, and, you've got to always, one of the things reasons you don't go into a public pool, is because all the kids piss in the pool, and that's why they have to put so much chlorine and stuff in. So it's kind of like you grow up thinking a certain way about it. But the weird thing about it is that even from a young age, you would always wee on like a jellyfish sting, or I don't know, there's just times you would do that, and just naturally, or most people would just wee in the bath, like having a bath, I feel like weeing, and I'll just wee in the bath and sit in it. And a lot of people kind of don't question that. It's very natural to them. So there's, to bridge the gap then, like once you become aware that most things are inversions, you just start going, well, kind of sounds gross, but I could definitely try it. And yeah, I think it just goes from there. It's a mental barrier that is overcome.
Yeah, absolutely. And this was all part of my exploration into the false germ theory lie. since meeting you, I've explored eating raw meat, raw chicken, raw milk. I was drinking raw milk for like 2 years straight. And yeah, and I didn't die. I didn't get sick. And then so trying urine therapy was also like this another opportunity to prove to myself, okay, like, am I going to get violently sick from doing this? And is it sterile? Is it full of bad things for me? And so it was just this extra level of experimentation and exploration into the false germ theory lies. So it's extremely liberating learning all of this.
Yeah, and also just the realizing that your body is more magical than you think. Like, what comes out of it is garbage, as opposed to maybe there's some miraculous thing that our bodies create and our bodies can utilize. And we're just, we're not as filthy scum-like creatures that we're told we are by the system in this slave state. So it's just that there's many levels to it that I think is really powerful and empowering, to learn more about our bodies and what we actually create with our bodies and how they can be healing.
Yeah, totally. There's so many aspects to urine therapy that could be part of how it heals so miraculously. And part of that is the spiritual sort of alchemical transmutation part of it. And then there's also, of course, the nutrients, the hormones, maybe the urea, and all these other components that could add together to be how it's so miraculous. So like most people, when they hear about this, right, they're either immediately intrigued and they want to learn more, or they're like totally disgusted and they'll just kind of label you and as a total quack, a total nut job, and carry on, right? So most of the people here right now are the first group of people, and so yeah, like we're really just speaking to those that are open to it. We're really not trying to convince anyone, but it's something that we both explored on our own and had incredible results from.
Yep. I mean, I think that's kind of what you asked before as well. You're like, we'd have varying degrees of doing it too, or varying degrees of why, or how much, or how often, or like, yeah, it's a really personal thing. I find like the people I'm not like really, really into it. It's not something that I actually do every day. It's not something that it's like if my body thinks it needs a little bit of urine, then I have it, but I don't do it as a daily thing. Whereas other people do it as a daily thing. It's part of their regime. It's part of their health practices, or it's almost ceremonial in ways. And for me, it's not that. For me, it's just I use it on my skin when it's necessary. If I've got cuts or whatever, I drink. And if I drink it, it's small amounts. Like I'm more into the energetic value of it, like the homeopathic doses. So just quite small amounts rather than a whole glassful, for example. Although I have done that as well. Like once you said the people here they might be further down the track than us, but some might just be curious about it. And when you do become curious about things, you need to try it out. So I've done drink the whole stream, like what's that like? Are you going to spew? Is it like you're going to choke on it? Is it awful? How does it make you feel? And so, yeah, I've definitely experimented with it, but I'm not like an avid urine therapy guy, so to speak. But it's only because my body, for whatever reason, maybe because I'm still detoxifying a lot from heavy metals, my body's going, you actually shouldn't drink too much of it. I don't know what the reason is, but I listen to my body. So, yeah, that's my experience, is definitely wanting to test things, but I'm not like it's not an everyday thing for me.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, absolutely. Everyone can choose their own journey with this. And like you said, it can be a homeopathic, which is so powerful, as we know, with other homeopathics. And so that's the idea of taking a little bit of information like under your tongue to inform your body about what's going on in your body. And then your body can then go and do the work, because our bodies are the healer. So,
Yeah.
so let's kind of dive in just a little bit about what urine is to kind of start off, and then we can go in. And I really want to share a couple personal stories of using it that's helped me in the past few months. So, okay, so urine is plasma ultrafiltrate. So it's mostly our blood, right? And I remember you teaching me that. So it's uh, our liver filters the blood, and then what is superfluous or excess, the kidneys filter out, and the kidneys filter the blood. So it's actually, we're almost shifting perspectives here, thinking that maybe the kidneys aren't really a detox organ after all. They're like this incredible filtration system. And yeah, what it creates is the urine, the blood plasma ultrafiltrate. And the majority of, I don't think people quite realize how much we detox through our skin and our exhalations, our breath through our lungs, and then of course feces. But so it's interesting to think that, you know, that isn't a waste product anymore. And so of course people would say, well, you know, you go and get a test at the doctor and they can find out certain things by testing your urine, right? And it's like, yes, there will be certain metabolites in the urine, but these are metabolites, right? So these are like no longer harmful. They're the breakdown products that the liver has neutralized and really broken down into just innocuous mirrors of the original toxin, in a sense.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they're a net.
yeah, and then so that would be part of the medicine of it, that when you do re-ingest it, there would be infinitesimal little tiny amounts of said toxin that you ate, like say, you know, coffee or even if you were on medication, in your urine will be the metabolites of that. And then if you re-ingest it, it then informs your body, like we said, to then clear more of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, okay, so, and it's interesting to think when you smell your urine, to shift from thinking, okay, well, this smells really gross, instead thinking, well, this is what my insides smell like this is what my blood smells like, basically. And these are the superfluous excess things in my blood. Yeah, so there are arguments around, you know, are there small amounts of toxins in that end up in the urine, and should you really be re-ingesting that? I think that's one of the biggest arguments. But
Yeah, well, like you said, it's mostly inert, and it's at the end of the day, what it is information. So it's telling your body, it's giving your body information about how things are processing, how they're not processing, and therefore how to fix it. That's what the homeopathic element of it is. But likewise, you know, it's like why you would give yourself small doses of venom or something to become stronger against like a venom from a snake, for example. You could argue that, well, why would you do that? Because it's venom and it's bad for you. But when you take them in homeopathic doses, you are strengthened to it. So just because it's a toxin doesn't make it bad. And like you said, Amy, they're inert anyway. So it's the metabolite of. So what you're getting is the information. So it's almost like you've gone and you've done a whole bunch of stuff. And like maybe I've just done a big drive. And a lot of it was shit because you're on a highway with people who clearly don't know what a car is or what a road is. So I'm now sitting here and I'm going to give you the information of it, but you're not on the highway. You're not dealing with the idiots that were there. So that's like what happens when we metabolize something. We've actually dealt with what that toxin is, and what we receive in the urine is the metabolite. It's the end result. It's the information. It's like, hey, this is what's going on and this is the result. But it's not the toxin itself. It's not being on the highway dealing with the Muppets. This is what happened. And so now you can deal with that because the information that you're being given, and that's why it's not like a harmful thing to have metabolites re-ingested.
beautifully said. Yes, perfect. Yeah. So the information aspect. I remember you telling me that in the beginning and just going like, it really kind of went over my head, you know, 2 years ago when you first told me that information was, I sat with it and just information. What does that mean? Information. And yeah, it makes perfect sense now. And it really shows you how sensitive our bodies really are. and how food is information, and our air that we breathe is information. And yeah, but urine is definitely a very like specifically unique and kind of magical substance. So some people would argue that it's the structured water in urine that really makes it incredible for us, because they use this word holographic. It's this crystalline, structured water that has a perfect balance of electrolytes and salts, and it's structured and it's crystalline. And it's like a holographic of you, of you, and like what is going on in your body in the moments prior to voiding that urine. And then so re-ingesting and ingesting structured water, we know is so good for us. And it's like, wow, my body is so incredible. It made structured water, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a lot of different ways that happens, but there's what's interesting about it too is when people try to argue about it, and it's just like, if you can argue all you like about theory, but you just have to look at the number of people who have healed their gut, healed their skin, healed a number of different conditions by ingesting their urine. And it's just kind of, a lot of the times we need to remove our overthinking, over analytical side of things to try to figure out what's right. Because a lot of times we don't want to do anything until we know it's right or perfect or the right thing. But we're kind of limited to be able to figure that out with just our thinking mind based on theories or based on experiments, as opposed to just actually seeing what it does and what urine is actually capable of doing. And so then when you think, well, if something heals, it has to be restructured, because the information that was produced in the illness has to be restructured to then create the health. And therefore, like, that nature of the structure of the like the energetics of the water, or the crystalline structure, as you said, is super important. And I'm wondering, as you're saying it, I'm not sure, I just kind of was thinking about this. I'm like, the healthier you get, then the better the structure must be, because the resonance of you as a being must create a more harmonic resonance in the crystalline structure of the urine. Or what could be the case is that it just is purely crystalline in structure, as in the harmonic resonance of it, because of what it is. Because our blood, maybe it doesn't change that much. It's the other things that change, like the blood nourishes everything else, which then helps that gain better structure, like the tissue on the outside of the body, for example. Pretty interesting to think about. But at the end of the day, it is definitely, we know beyond a shadow of a doubt, it's like it is structured water. And the importance of that is really well known. So just another reason to start experimenting with it.
Yeah. I had this thought that, water that comes from the earth is magnetized and therefore structured. And if it is true that we have this center that is electromagnetic, then we magnetize the water like the earth magnetizes the water. And maybe that's kind of how we structure it, through our heart center and our energetic field.
Yep,
so yeah, and see, this is so interesting, because even the doctors that practice urine therapy, and there's not really many these days, maybe there are, but they're probably operating on the down low, but even they don't know exactly how it works. Even John Armstrong, who wrote The Water of Life, it was in the 1900s, a treatise on urine therapy, and we'll talk more about this, but he practiced it. He was a layman, he wasn't a doctor, and he didn't know exactly how it worked, but he cured many people who were on death's door, who were like discarded by the medical industry and said, we can't help you, you've got 4 months to live, and he's cured them. I mean, gangrene, that's what opens this book in the first couple of pages, curing people of one of their limbs or something that is decomposing, cured it without amputation. Incredible. So it's one of the most studied substances, and yet we don't know exactly how it works. And so that I'm loving how we're just kind of throwing ideas out there. I will say, just to the viewers, if you do like a Google search, like a Dr. Google pharma funded Google search, you'll see articles that tell you not to drink your urine, and that it's pseudoscience, and that it's unproven and dangerous. And yeah, because we know that Google and all of these search engines have been hijacked and they're hiding information from us, and they don't want us to heal ourselves. They don't want us to be independent of the medical industry. So
Mm.
just remember that when you go searching about this. But it is one of the most studied substances. But the reason why we don't know about its healing properties is because the pharma companies haven't been able to make something profitable out of urine other than maybe some urea stuff, because when they study it and they start taking components out of it, it loses its magic, it loses its healing ability, and they're just not able to take advantage of it and take advantage of us and make a profit off of it. So that's why we don't know about it.
Yep. But if you do look at the main ingredient in most beauty products, it's urea.
Yes. Yeah, it's so true. Yeah. I've even heard that some porta-john companies where the urinal is, that they actually collect that and sell that to a pharmaceutical company.
Yeah. Yeah, they do.
Yeah. So there's no need to spend your money on expensive beauty care products that either come from men's urinals, or sometimes I've heard horses too. And there's no sense in harming horses, or however it's extracted. We have our own perfect medicine on board at all times. So save your money, which is a really great thing about urine therapy. So yeah, so carrying on with thoughts around how and why it works. We talked about structured water. We talked about, the holographic image of our bodies and re-ingesting that. There's also this really interesting thought about our blasting through our preconceived notions about our bodily fluids, right? So the first sip that you have, I was surprised. I was like, what? This doesn't taste that bad. This tastes like a soft, like warm tea that is like perfectly balanced water. Like, what? Right. And so they say that there's sort of this psychological thing that happens where you kind of have a different image of who you are and your body, and that in itself is so healing.
Mm. Yeah, that you're not gross or whatever.
Yeah, like you love yourself more. Yeah, and this influencer girl that I follow, she says like if you hate yourself, then you probably won't practice urine therapy. So you have to kind of love yourself and to utilize it. And when you start putting it on your skin, because a big part of John Armstrong's therapy was that you would have his patients rub it on their skin. Like that was absolutely part of the protocol. And when you do that, and you have your waters on you, and it's moisturizing you like very deeply, because the urea has this ability to go deeper into the skin mantle, as opposed to like a lipid, like a coconut oil, or any kind of shea butter, any lipid fat that you would put on your skin. It has an ability to go deeper. That's why it moisturizes so well. But it's just that like incredible, like, wow, I have this incredible substance with me at all times, and it's giving me health. Like, wow, it's incredible.
Yeah, yeah, it is amazing, but I totally agree that it does shift the self perception and image, and that's as powerful as anything else, because as the body, as we become more loving of ourselves, then our structure changes as well. Like the waters within our body then harmonize better. Like you get a better crystalline structure within your body, which then in turn will improve the quality of the urine, I would imagine, as well. So it's all just like a positive cycle once you start doing these things. And to be able to I love the fact that it's like, how everything that we experience is the inversion, like the way the system does stuff, they invert everything. I love that we can take an inversion of what's gross to then become like, more purified ourselves by using our own bodily, healing mechanisms. I think everything about it is just like super cool, really.
Yeah, I do think it's one of the keys to this, like where we're going and this shift that we're all in, that urine therapy, when it starts to be adopted and people drop their weirdness around it, that it really is going to be one of the keys to help us shift into a higher consciousness, heal our bodies, and
Mm.
yeah, release our dependence on the typical conventional medicine.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so fascinating. Um, so something interesting too. So something that people say that is like a criticism of urine therapy is urea. Like doctors will be like, "Oh, urea is it's poisonous and it's dangerous, and you don't want to ingest that." Firstly, urea is such a very small amount of the urine, and I believe it to be like tonifying in the body. And what's interesting is that when you do looping, which looping is when you drink every drop that you pass, and this is what you do in a real chronic disease state, like when you're really trying to heal cancer or something like a terminal illness, or if you just want to experience looping, you can do that too. But it's counterintuitive because you would take, say, your morning wee, which is the darkest and the strongest, most flavorful, most salty, bitter, etc., because it has the most hormones and things in it from your sleep. And that you drink it, and then your next pass is actually lighter in color. And every time you go through, it's lighter and lighter and lighter. So it's counterintuitive because you would think that like it would get darker, right? You would think, oh, it's going to get more concentrated. So, but it doesn't.
Mhm.
It gets almost rainwater clear at a certain point. And so that says that urea and also all of the hormones and vitamins and everything in the urine is like converted and utilized to come out then pure.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of inversions like that, but you're right, because you would think that the more urea, it would just get like, if it was harmful in that way, you're not supposed to ingest it, it would like compound and you would have a lot of problems, right? But then obviously that's not how the body actually does it. And this is the issue with when, like you said earlier, it's like you can't take a compound out of something and say that that's the thing. That's like reductionism, where you try to take a part out of a whole and then you're just like, well, this part explains everything, but it doesn't, because it doesn't act like that when it's part of the whole. It's a completely separate thing now. So urea as well, even if it was harmful to ingest, well, then maybe it would be if you isolate it and you only take urea, but that's not what you do. You have with it, the urea is part of a symbiotic compound that is far more than the sum of its parts, and therefore it can be highly, highly beneficial rather than toxic because of the cofactors that it's bound by. So that's another important lesson just in general. When people start trying to extract nutrients from foods and then going, well, you don't need, oh yeah, this is the best because it's like this amount of vitamin C, but it doesn't have the same co-nutrients or cofactors or ionic element or the energetic factor to it. None of that's the same. So it's not the same thing anymore. It's actually completely different, and then can therefore be actually really toxic. So if you take one elemental, if you take an element out of its food, that element by itself may be toxic, but in the food is highly beneficial. So I think that's a good lesson in general, that nature makes things the right way. And then we kind of go and fuck it up.
Yeah. Yeah. You definitely taught me a lot about that, about taking things out of their original natural context, and that your body has to compensate somehow to make it right in a way. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, definitely. It's always, yeah, always the, being in accordance with nature is
Mm-hmm.
kind of like, it's easy, if you just follow that, then you're, in a good place.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So, okay. So another thing, this is so fascinating. I was trying to figure out in my books, like where I read this and I couldn't find it. But anyways, so this man had this hypothesis, or he said, like, we are designed so intelligently, by a creator. I do believe that. And would we really, it's like God gave us this substance in order to help ourselves heal ourselves. Like, would we really be so defenseless against chronic disease? It's like incredible. Like, we were given this substance and all we have to do is utilize it, and
Mm.
we can help ourselves, we can heal ourselves. So I thought that was so interesting. Curious your thoughts on that concept.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you look at it, you know, if you look at cultures that are living the ways that they always live, they use urine for a lot of different stuff. And a lot of it's for things like, taking care of wounds or bites from animals or whatever. So then in that context, of course, it's like this thing that's given to us as a healing mechanism and agent that we produced, like we created ourselves. And so it's like that's around us always. Like you can see that everywhere. And even as some mainstream sort of advice still says to wee on like stings and that. So it hasn't actually completely left the the consciousness of the mainstream, but it's certainly there if you go looking for older studies on what tribes do and what naturally living people do, and they use urine for a lot of different purposes. So for sure, I think. I mean, but by the same token, if you expand that idea to just say anything natural is there to heal us, because same as the herbs that grow in the garden or whatever, like if it's natural, then it's usually there to help heal us. And then, so therefore, like, why wouldn't our urine, which is natural, why wouldn't that, like you could phrase it like that, like, why wouldn't that be there to heal us if it's something that we've created? I know you can kind of like you can go, well, poo is natural too, but that's not there to heal us. And it's like, well, as far as I know, that's true. So there's always like a flip, but yeah. But one of the elements that I find really fascinating about it is because it is like your plasma, it's like blood, right? It's like filtered blood, but blood's red. So then you go, well, it's filtered. So then it must be like the red blood cells filtered out but then it's gold. Like, why is it gold? Like gold has such a high frequency. Gold is revered by so many cultures for so many reasons. Like, it's not an accident that it's that color. Like, why isn't it green? Or like, a lighter color of red or something, like just a bit of like a weak beetroot juice or something. Like if blood is bright red and it's filtered blood, why isn't it just like a very pale red? That would make more sense, but it's gold. Like, why is it gold? Like there's something, I don't know what, but there's something in that to me for sure.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Absolutely. And that, yeah, this one, I have 3 books. This is The Golden Fountain, and love the name of this one. And yeah, like also the idea of a fountain, right? Like, what is the function of a fountain? Is that it sucks up its own water, shoots it out the top, and then just recycles it all the time. And it's like, maybe that really truly is the fountain of youth. And you see
Mm-hmm.
the imagery of like the little statue, the boy peeing into the fountain. Have you seen those fountains? Yeah. So it's kind of like, where'd that imagery come from?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard of people reversing gray hairs with it. Obviously your skin like is so soft, and I think you can really help with fine lines on your skin as well. And of course babies too. We talked about this. Amniotic fluid is mostly urine. And so
Mm-hmm.
at every point, like every one of us at some point in our lives,
Has
loop,
drank the hearing.
looped our urine. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's why babies are so soft.
Yeah, well, I'm a bit caught on that because I never put that together, that famous statue of the kid pissing in the water. It's like, yeah, I don't know, I'm just coming up with heaps of ideas now because I haven't thought of that before. That's really cool.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, like hidden in plain sight, a little
yeah,
bit. And it's
yeah.
like, where did that original statue come from? So,
Yeah, and because it's the inversion of what I said earlier, which is all the kids peeing in the local swimming pool and therefore having to put all the poison in it with the chlorine, where maybe it's not. Maybe it's like that would be the fountain of youth. Maybe instead of going, I'm never going to the public pool because all the kids wee in it, you'd be like, when can I get to the pool? Can I pay $100 to go in that pool that all the kids weed in because it's a fountain of youth?
yeah. Yeah, wow. And they do say too that like kids pee is more, I don't know, it's like better than adults pee.
It
I
would be,
can't,
yeah.
yeah.
Although don't put anything out there because then you might get psychos trying to like harvest kids weeing.
Yeah.
Make a business out of it.
Well, I'm hoping energetically we can just like keep those
Yeah,
people
no,
out of
that's
it.
a joke.
Yeah. So okay, so two, the when you get stung by something, by a bee or probably anything, your the antidote is in your urine within 20 seconds.
Mm.
And so I had an opportunity to test this out this summer. I was walking around barefoot at a festival. I stepped on a bee and it was like instant fire, instant pain. And I was just about to do some Thai massage body work. And I was like, crap, what am I going to do? I've just like, my foot is on fire. The stinger was still in there and everything. Pulled it out and I just marched myself back to my tent, grabbed my camping cup, went outside my tent, peed in it, drank some, put some on the sting. And I kid you not, within 20 minutes, it was like it didn't even happen. There was no welt, no swelling. It was just like itchy the next day a little bit, but not like
Hmm.
out of control itchy. So, I mean, I'm not allergic, definitely allergic to bees, but can you imagine how many people's lives could have been saved with this information? Being out in
Hmm.
the woods, don't have your EpiPen, or if you got, even a snake bite or scorpion bite or something, like that's pretty huge.
Yeah, yeah. But that also highlights the nature of information, right? Because you would think if you get poison in your body and it has to be circulated through, clean through the liver, then the kidneys filtrated and then put into the urine, that would take hours. But it doesn't. It happens within 20 minutes. So what is it about? How does it get into the urine to be able to heal that fast? And the answer is it can only be by that information process. So it's not necessarily like you were saying before, the metabolites or whatever that is the issue. It's not. It's the information. It's the energetics because there's no other way to explain it getting there as the antidote that fast.
Yeah, okay. And then so if we talk about water and water, how there's so much we don't know about water yet, and water can have a memory, right? So and if
Mm-hmm.
the healing aspect of urine is the the information, then maybe it's captured in the water's memory that's in your energetic field. That and you've just sustained this injury, this threat, this bee sting. And
Yeah.
20 seconds, yeah, that you're right. Like it would need your body would need a little bit more time at least for it to end up in your
Yeah.
urine. So is it the
Exactly.
water body?
Well, probably because the other thing I remember Amanda saying that when her daughter, I think, got stung and she couldn't pee. Amanda gave her some of her pee and it did the same thing. And I'm wondering because if you're in close, like if you and I were like next to each other and I got stung and I'm like, but I just peed 20 minutes ago and I don't have any wee, that if your energetic body would pick up on that as well and probably be able to provide the same antidote, like maybe, but it would make sense.
Potentially, yeah. Like at first I was thinking, well, it must be someone that has a quite a strong bond with you, like your daughter, your mother, your partner. But then again, maybe even a stranger, like if they're connected enough, like who
Mm.
knows, right? Like this is just we're just kind of throwing ideas around.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but yeah, I'm just trying to take that further. But yeah, you're right. I think it's the water body. It's for sure. It's structuring inside of the energetics, which just code the whole body. It codes the cells to know, and then that's expressed in the excretion of the urine. But because of that resonance, it has to be picked up by a body that's close by. Like with the that's how groundwater works. You know, it's like it can energize a certain amount. And if you energize water and put it around other water, it energizes that water around it. And that's why, you know, they did their experiments where they put their water in a fridge and it makes the fruit and vegetables and milk or whatever last longer around it. So when our whole body structures a certain way, it's definitely going to affect something in the waters of the bodies that are close by, especially if you're in very close proximity and you are connected because you're experiencing the same thing. So you've got the observer effect of the same happening. where you're both reacting to the same event, and therefore there's a melding. There's like, I don't think it has to be mother-daughter connection. I think that two people experiencing the same stimulus would structure in a similar way.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Yes. Yep. Sympathetic resonance.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
now I'm just thinking maybe all these things that we think are weird, like all these cults where they do their parties and they wee on each other and take each other's keys home and blindfold each other, whatever they do in those parties. Maybe they're onto something. The
Oh God.
healing party.
Yeah. Okay. So something I'm thinking of, like, so we're talking about urine helping people heal their body, right? But okay, let's say, so if we're saying that there's something in the water of our body that is information that then heals us. Let's say we've just incurred like a really intense emotional experience, like losing a loved one or a dog or something like this, and you're having grief. So you have this intense grief episode, right? If you were to take your urine, say during the peak of your grief, or maybe like the day after, like the peak of your grief, do you think that there would be maybe something healing in that would heal you emotionally?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm only just guessing because, yeah, I've only just heard that theory from you. But yeah, I would guess that it would. It would have some effect for sure. I don't know what the effect would be, but an effect, it's 100%. It has something. It will have something.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Super interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I was interested. I was looking forward to this chat because I knew that like we'd bounce different ideas to just, I mean, it's one thing to have a chat where you're both talking from your prior knowledge. Like we could both talk about water and the importance of it and what's good, what's not, and whatever, because it's all prior stuff. But I really enjoy this sort of thing because we're not actually trying to give answers. We're just kind of really exploring things deeper than I have with, like the chat with Amanda. We didn't go to these sorts of levels and that. So I think it's just good for people as well listening, maybe that they're, exploring as well, because that's how we have breakthroughs. Like there might be something that as you're trying to bounce ideas, that's where a breakthrough comes. And it could be like, imagine that there was no such thing as death from bee stings anymore because of this chat, or from, how to heal grief instead of it lodging for the rest of people's life in an organ, and that grief pattern runs everything. Imagine that just by drinking the urine in some ceremonial fashion within 24 hours of the passing of a loved being, imagine that actually allows that grief to not store in an organ, but allows it to pass through. And then when you pee out next, you pee out you don't like lose the memory or the sorrow for a loved one, but you don't have the destructive nature of grief storing in the intestines, for example. That's a possibility. I don't know. And unless we're willing to just throw out the idea that we don't know, but we're happy just to have conversation and ask these questions, it could lead to something in someone else that hears it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. These conversations are so powerful because we are all puzzle pieces of the whole puzzle. So someone could pick this up and go, and then try that, and then hopefully they'll tell us if it's helped them, and or expand on it and whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, like something I've been doing a lot lately, which Amanda recommended, which I love. I sing a lot, and I have a Shruti box, which is an Indian instrument. It's like a drone instrument, and so it just helps you to kind of sing along to it. It just like supports your voice. So I really find that vocalizing and sounding is so helpful for shifting my state. Like I so much rather chant and sound than meditate. So that's just me. But I've also just found like this incredible emotional shift with sounding and vocalizing and vocal toning. And so they say like our voice is the perfect signature to heal our body. And that as we tone and as we sing, whatever sound comes out is like the exact sound that we sort of need in that moment. And then so when you filled your whole body, your water body, your energetic body with your own sounds, then there might be something really valuable in your urine after doing such an activity as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep. 100% there would be, yeah. And it's an interesting topic because I've been thinking recently that I need to do some of that actually. because like I don't like the sound of my own voice. Like it's really crap. Like I don't like I never if somebody goes we're gonna do chanting stuff I just go I'm not going because I don't do it. Like I don't like it. I don't but it's probably just because I don't think I'm good at it. Like there's that element of judgment and therefore repression of things, which is obviously not healthy. And but as far as harmonics go, yeah, absolutely. The urine's going to structure differently, I think, based on things like the harmonic resonance of like a gong or you know, certain tones, certain frequencies and harmonics definitely have that effect to restructure things in the body. And if you cycle it, because I think I brought it up in the chat with Amanda where I heard that if people do psychedelics and then they drink their urine after doing psychedelics, it's like 10 times more, it's just like superpowered because you are getting the metabolites of that and it's just an extra supercharged version. So why wouldn't that work with healing, with harmonics? So if you've harmonized that, peed it out, brought it back in, why wouldn't it like be a supercharged version of that?
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you tried it?
Psychedelics and then weeing and
Oh no, any kind of like whether it's sound healing or whatever or chanting or have you tried that yet?
um you know what? I haven't tried it like immediately after sounding. No, I haven't. But I'm going to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what would be a better thing to do is because it would be hard not to have your own influence of like, you know, the placebo effect of, well, this must be better. And what would be interesting is taking, it has to be the same plant too. It can't be like two mint plants, but they're different genetics. It has to be the same plant. So you need to get something that you can split the plant, use the same soil. You know how some plants you can just like pull apart and plant them and they grow. So the same plant, same genetics in the same soil and water, put one with standard urine and one with the urine that's just after your chanting or whatever. And then that would be the way you would be able to make a control experiment to see if there's a real difference or ways to actually, if you can, I don't know, get a lab or something to like look at with a microscope, look at the crystalline structure of the urine, then you could probably tell. And I'd be really interested to see because I would guess if I'd put money on it, I'd say that post chanting or sound healing, it would be a better structure.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be super. I like the idea of the plant and like the same plant, just kind of pull them apart and try that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's so many amazing experiments that need to happen. So
Yeah.
yeah, hopefully we've given someone an idea to maybe try that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, so yeah. Um, so yeah, like other kind of like if anything comes to you, Tom, like any other kind of thoughts around how urine therapy could work. But yeah. Well, okay.
Like the reason,
Sorry.
the mechanism. Do you mean like why? Like why does it work? Is that what you mean? Like any thoughts on that?
Well, yeah. Like if there's anything you have that you were kind of thinking,
Oh yeah.
put you on the spot either.
No, well, just not really. It's just the main thing for me was the gold question. Hang on, I was trying to put my hat over the phone, otherwise it overheats. That's all right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's mostly that gold question for me because I've just been becoming more and more aware of that and how much we actually have monoatomic gold in our body as well. Like our blood plasma has monoatomic gold, which is like the purest form, that the highest energetic value and property, the highest wealth is actually within us. And I find that really fascinating. And to know that that's a huge part then also of urine is and then why it has its golden hue, like it's a representation of what's in it or what it's about, what it's made from. Yeah, there's just that's again, like I haven't had a chance to explore it to the degree that I can experiment with it or test it or figure out if these theories are right, but it's pretty fascinating for sure. It's like it just feels like there's more hidden secrets that are just hidden in plain sight, like you say, but we're not educated on. And then, yeah, I think it holds a lot. I think it holds a key to something, you know, and even just the element of you see the pollution in the world. If you think of the world as an external like reflection of us, and the world, like the riverways and that, are also polluted. So then what does the body do? Like, how can these be representative or reflections of one another? And what could solutions be that are like right in front of us, that our bodies do all the time? And what's being stopped, maybe, I don't know, like what's being inverted where we're told that you shouldn't do that, or that's wrong, or that'll be bad for a river, for example. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't have any answers. I'm just thinking more deeply about how, like, just urine itself and how and why it works. Like, why is it such a powerful element of its own? Like, how does that relate not just to us, but then the whole planet? Like, how can things, yeah, potentially change and heal as a result of that understanding?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's interesting to think that the waters, I mean, we've been chemtrailing, not us, but they have been chemtrailing unimaginable amounts of pollution over the years. And, you know, there's obviously devastation, of course, but the systems are still kind of working, right? You know, like Mother Nature is managing somehow to kind of get us through this kind of crazy time. So, you know, if our waters that are magnetized by us, and that when Mother Nature's waters is in her womb again, you know, maybe there really is that transmutation happening there too, on a level that we didn't actually even really understand.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I just had a thought then as you were saying that about the structure of things. Like, what if, because if they're reflections or expressions, what if, like the chemtrails, if we just feel disempowered by it, then that structures the water a certain way, which is the pollution version. But if, in spite of everything that's polluted and sprayed and what have you, we still maintain that purity, we still connect to that higher frequency, then that activates that golden element. Like, that's, maybe it's like a conduit of in between that monoatomic gold that can work to be the greatest power, or it can just remain inert and inactive because we don't activate it, we don't resonate with it, and we just become polluted because we feel like filth or muck or, you know, a waste product. And
Right.
that's why I love, you know, like, as we started talking about this reframing of how we see ourselves and what comes out of us, like that in itself could be that activation to this gold that's within us. And then that purifies things. Like, that's what kind of, gold is the purest substance that, as far as I'm aware anyway, from my own knowledge, gold is the only thing that does not take on something else. It's like, it's the only element that I know of that won't take on another element. It remains pure no matter what. So then, yeah, I'm just still stuck on the golden aspect of urine, and that book that you just showed us, the Golden Fountain, and that, I'm like, I got to read that. There's probably some answers in that.
It's really, really good. So on this like train of thought, if we start utilizing our urine, our Urine, and heal our bodies and improve our water body, improve our frequency, then we could heal Mother Earth via the sympathetic resonance that you spoke about, putting the structured water next to the tap water in the fridge, and then the structured water influences the tap water. So in that kind of philosophy, then we could literally heal the earth by healing our water body.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Oh boy. The next few years are going to be so epic. I feel it.
Yeah.
So yeah, sorry, go on.
No, that's where I've kind of ended up at. Like, as we had all our floods and that round here, that's where I was ending up at, but I didn't relate it to urine until now. So yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, very cool. I have a feeling you're going to start practicing it a little bit more now after this talk.
Yeah, well, doing more with it for sure. Yeah.
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 Cool. So let's talk about some practical things people can do. So I'll tell you quickly about another opportunity I had to use urine therapy. Was kind of an allergic reaction. I'm not allergic to walnuts, but I had some walnuts one night. I had like a big handful of walnuts, and for some reason they really, really reacted. And it was about an hour later though. I had really, really intense pain, cramping in my stomach. I wasn't like, I think the plant toxins in the walnuts, they probably weren't organic. So like when something's not organic, it like produces more plant toxins because of the pesticides and whatever. So
Yeah.
anyway, so gut wrenching, I'm on the floor in pain, like can barely move. And then I grab my phone. I'm like, symptoms of walnut, like something. And it was like, yeah, okay, it was the walnuts after all. So then I'm like, I don't know, I guess urine, like that's all I know what to do. I'm in so much pain. And I could only pee like a small amount, like just like this tiny little amount that didn't seem like it was going to do anything. And I just put it under my tongue and I'm like losing my breath. I put it on my tongue and literally within seconds, like it was almost immediate, I could feel like a waning of the pain from this reaction to walnuts. So, you know, those of you listening, this is a tool that you can have anywhere you are in any kind of circumstance where you have something like this. And for those of you suffering from allergies with food, like where you can't eat this and you can't eat that, etc., you can actually correct allergies with urine. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of, like, yeah, that's one of the, a lot of people have healed their gut, and that's part of it is that, yeah, it's a big part. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And then, so I'll just quickly explain this because this is really powerful. So you can make a homeopathic out of your urine at the peak of an allergic reaction. So at the peak of your allergic reaction, you're like producing, you know, all that information. So then you take that urine at the peak of your symptoms, and then you make a homeopathic out of it. And homeopathic is where you dilute it, like crazy diluted, like so diluted you wouldn't even think it would make a difference. So you would take like 2 drops into a bottle and you succuss it, you shake it, and then you take like 2 drops out of that, put it in another bottle with distilled water and shake it, succuss it. And then I think then you take 1 drop of that bottle into some vodka, and there you have your homeopathic. And you would take that in the, you know, every single day. And by the time you're done that bottle, essentially they're saying that you would have completely healed and corrected that allergy, that food allergy that you have. So that then when you come across it again, it's like, you're good.
Yeah.
You know, it's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. But, and that's the kind of, you know, like they, everything that pharmaceutical science does is based off something natural, and then they cancel out the natural so that people don't really have it or utilize it or know about it anymore. And that's, you know, that is the process of how they distill a lot of their medicinal compounds, is that exact process, and it's taken, I think, from that. So yeah, super interesting. It's like it is really amazing how much, and that's like just highlights how much power is in just the smallest amount. And that's why I'm not, because it's not right, but my body doesn't tell me to use large amounts of urine. It tells me to use relatively small amounts, because once you get sensitive enough, then it's like that you don't need a whole lot. But it's also a different process. Like just urine by itself isn't activated to that high concentration quality as it is of doing the process, which is again why doing looping or doing something that actually continues to multiply the effect is oftentimes the way to make the more medicinal, more powerful version. So we should do like a whole, I don't know, put together a little like cheat sheet of how to do stuff, like how to make it, how to, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I know. Well, Tom, do you have more time? Because we have 1
I've
minute left.
got, yeah, about a minute, yeah.
Really? That's all you have? Dang it. All right. Well, we have 1 minute left on this. The countdown is on, and there's so much I wanted to get into about, you know, how people could utilize this and so on.
Well, let's do
So
part 2.
yeah. So another day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So guys, wait and we'll do a part 2. It'll be amazing. So we covered all the kind of philosophy and stuff in this one. So I hope you loved it. You know, if you guys want to dive into this more, if you're dealing with health issues, Tom and I are both holistic health practitioners, and we both do personal private health consults. So you guys can reach out to us if you want to dive deeper. But yes, I hear people in the chat. They're like, yes, part 2, part 2.
Yeah, sweet. We'll do it for sure. We'll do it in like a week or so. We'll do it in, like not too far away, probably like a week at the most.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good. I'll reach out to you and we'll book a date.
Cool.
Cool.
Sounds good. Thanks for the chat.
Okay, yeah, awesome. We'll chat soon. Thank you. Thanks, guys.